Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast series for financial advisors. Today's episode is Not Just Charity: How Donor-Advised Funds Help Advisors Add Value and Assets. It's a conversation with Julia Healey, CEO of United Charitable. I'm Jason Diamond, and this is the Diamond Podcast for Financial Advisors.
At Diamond Consultants, we help elite advisors identify the right environment for their businesses to thrive, whether that's at a wirehouse, boutique, or independent firm. With nearly 3 decades of experience, we've guided thousands of advisors and represented more than $250 billion in assets transitioned. And each year, 1 in 4 advisors managing $1 billion or more who change firms are our clients. Our process is education-driven and based on building relationships, starting as your strategic partner well before you're even thinking of a move. To schedule a confidential conversation, call us at 908-879-1002. Wondering why advisors change firms and where they're headed? Are transition deals going up or down? Those very questions and more inspired us to create our annual Advisor Transition Report. It's the award-winning, data-driven resource designed for advisors that connects the dots between the motivations around movement and the firm's appetite for top talent. Arm yourself with the knowledge you need to make smart decisions. Download your copy at diamond-consultants.com/transition report.
In this episode, we're doing something a little different. A sort of educational session that doubles as a business development strategy. We're talking about donor-advised funds, or DAFs. You've probably heard of them, maybe even worked with one, but chances are you're not using them to their full potential. Because DAFs aren't just for high net worth and ultra high net worth clients. And while they offer a philanthropic path for clients' wealth, the value goes well beyond. When used the right way, DAFs can help deepen client relationships, open doors to new assets, and create a real sense of impact and purpose for clients at all wealth levels. Julia Healey knows this space inside and out. As the CEO of United Charitable, she works with financial advisors and clients every day to unlock the full value of DAFs, not just from a tax and estate planning perspective, but from a relationship and growth perspective too. In this episode, we cover how DAFs actually work and what makes them so accessible, the biggest misconceptions and why they're not just for the mega wealthy, how advisors are using them to differentiate and build trust, and what it looks like when you give clients a real path to be a philanthropist. Whether you're new to the concept or looking to refine how you present donor-advised funds, this episode offers a practical, insightful take on an often overlooked tool. So let's dive in. Julia, thanks so much again for joining us. To start with, can you just walk us through your background and maybe with a focus on the wealth management world?
Yeah, so I started my career as a financial advisor. My undergrad is in finance and accounting, and really I thought helping people with their finances and feeling comfortable with their money, just because it was such a topic for my parents, was really where I wanted to start my career. So financial advising, I did it for about 3 years until I completely burnt myself out. But I worked for Woodbury Financial Services, which was the brokerage arm of Hartford Insurance.
Oh, that's great. We'll talk more about what your current role is, which is obviously not as a financial advisor. But I think that concept of money was such an important topic, or sometimes it was such a taboo topic growing up. That's what spurred me into this world. So we hear that a lot, and it's interesting to hear it from you as well.
Yeah.
Now let's pivot to your current role as CEO of United Charitable. So I want to talk about the work you do, but again, keeping in mind that our audience is primarily wealth advisors. So please feel free to share your mission and how United Charitable works and who you help, and also maybe as it relates to financial advisors.
Yeah, perfect. We administer donor-advised funds and fiscally sponsored programs. And specifically for the donor-advised funds, we support financial advisors that want to add philanthropy services to their clients. So we have a little over 200 million in assets. We have about 650 clients. We support over 100 financial advisors. Really, the RIA financial advisors, the boutique ones that really do the holistic planning that wants to include the philanthropic services, they bring us in because financial advisors, you guys can't be experts in everything. So we serve as your philanthropy arm.
Interesting. So can you tell me how this would work? So I'm a financial advisor at XYZ RIA. I've got a client who's interested in getting more involved. They just come into a significant inheritance and they've made a decision that they want to be meaningfully more philanthropic. How could an advisor work with you? What does that typical engagement look like?
Perfect. You get us right on that Zoom call and we talk about what they want to do with, because obviously the financial advisor and the CPA is going to figure out that they need a tax deduction, right? That they're going to need that charitable tax deduction. And when they realize that, sometimes clients don't know where they want to give all at once. So they get us on the phone and we can talk about the options. And the great thing about working with an independent donor advised fund like United Charitable is the financial advisor still manages the assets. That's so important to us because we want the financial advisor to be in charge of making sure the money grows as it should. If the clients, like if we're putting 50,000 into the accounts and the clients want to give away 5,000 a year or whatever it may be, we really want to make sure that that financial advisor is in charge of the money. And we'll help with the philanthropy services. We'll help your clients determine what their mission is, what their values are. Sometimes it's a husband and wife and kids that we can really go in and make that family mission. Or sometimes our clients are like, nope, I just want to give to my alma mater. And we can help them with that as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. So I want to actually, I probably should have started here, but let's back up the bus just 1 second. And can you talk a little bit about, because our advisors and our audience in general, I think is all over the map in terms of who they serve, the types of business they do. Can you give us the ABCs of donor advised funds? What is a donor advised fund? Who are they applicable to and for? And why have they become seemingly so popular?
Yeah. So a donor advised fund, think about it as a way to streamline your charitable giving. And think of it as like a charitable savings account. So it is just a segregated account that has been donated to charity. So it has been donated to United Charitable, and then your clients get to choose where the money is invested and who it's invested with and where it is distributed each year. See, the great part about donor advised funds right now, there's no regulations that say it has to be distributed each year. So basically think of it as a charitable savings account.
Just to make sure I understand the idea being that I can get money out of my income this year by putting it into this, effectively donating this money, even though it's not actually being deployed until I say so. Is that fair?
That's fair. And you get the immediate tax deduction. So the minute it goes into the donor advised fund is when you receive that tax deduction.
So you almost view it as from the donor's perspective, the moment they made the contribution to the donor advised fund is like when they've made the charitable contribution.
Absolutely.
Is this a new construct or concept? Because the way I learned about donor advised funds, I would assume like many of my colleagues, is I sat in recruit meetings and they kept coming up. And now it seems like they come up almost every sophisticated wirehouse advisor. Like if you've got $10 million and up clients, they seem to come up more and more. Is it a new construct or have they picked up speed, or is this just I was late to the party and they've always been around?
They've been around since the 1930s, since community foundations kind of were started. But the big, large ones came out in the 90s with, Fidelity and Schwab. But what really defined the donor advised fund was in 2006, the Pension Protection Act. That is what really gave IRS regulation about this is a donor advised fund, what it can do. It can only make distributions to a 501c3 religious or educational institution. So they've been around, but they're becoming more and more popular just because of how much is going into the charitable industry. The numbers just came out, about 600 billion went into the charitable industry in 2004. And I think clients are finding it is just a vehicle to really support what they want to do.
I think that's the right kind of lens. And I think about this a lot with a lot of wealth management innovations where it's chicken and egg. Like it's not that donor advised funds are popular because people like donor advised funds. It's because I agree with you that it feels like people are charitably giving more than ever. And this is an effective and efficient vehicle that enables them to do so. Like I view this as more the output, as solving for a need that I assume investors and clients have had.
Absolutely. And I think in an ever-changing world, donor advised funds are becoming more popular to just more than individuals. We have more corporations that are setting up corporate donor advised funds just because they know they want to give back. They want to be positive in society. They want to have that brand recognition for being charitable. And so a donor advised fund is a perfect solution because they don't have to go set up their own 501c3, right? They can donate even $10,000 of their company profit and really feel like they're their own foundation.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned a number and you mentioned $10,000. In my head, when we have conversations around donor advised funds, typically we're thinking about high net worth, ultra high net worth clients. Am I wrong in that thinking? Like, are they a potentially applicable solution for even kind of mom and pop retail investors, or are they more typically in the high net worth family office type space?
It's funny that you said, because I get asked that question all the time. And according to the National Study of Donor Advised Funds, Nearly 50% have a total assets of less than 50,000.
Wow.
Donor advised funds, they're a very easy way to, again, start to figure out how you want to leave your legacy. So let's say you only have $10,000 this year that you can give. Put it in the donor advised fund, maybe not distribute it, maybe build that charitable wealth, put $10,000 in a year, do the bunching strategies. There's so many different things, but it can be used as a vehicle to build charitable wealth.
And is your role on advising on the financy side of it, like here's the implications of putting money in a donor advised fund? Or is your role, let's find a philanthropy that feels soulful to you and matches your needs and goals? Or is it both?
It's really, again, finding the values and helping support the finance side of it. We'll work with the CPA, we'll work with the client's team, right? Like their CPA, their financial advisors, sometimes they're insurance agents. We do still get insurance policies donated into the donor advised fund, especially like ones that were little that clients maybe took out when they were young and now they have cash value and they can donate it in and get that tax deduction. So we don't necessarily advise on the financial side of things, but we do help with the vetting the charity, talking to the clients about what organizations they want to give to, coming up with that family mission. Do you want to have a giving page? Do you want people to make donations on your birthday to your donor advised funds? We've seen people use it in all sorts of different ways.
Oh, that's cool. Are you affiliated with the large firms as well? Like, is there Morgan Stanley relationships that can leverage a firm or a charity like yours?
Yeah, absolutely. We work with, again, about 100 financial advisors, and we have relationships with most of the major brokerage houses, especially when you need our customer service, our boutique side of things. When clients really want to talk about, like, what is the difference between giving to a grassroots foundations or like a wounded warrior, or they want to get that next generation involved and have the family conversations with the kids, and especially the younger generation, giving is so different to them than writing a check.
I could see that. It makes you feel like you're more part of it. There's something intentional about it, I think.
Yeah, they want to do the volunteer. They want to help. They want their friends to get involved. They want to have experiences with the charities. It's really more of that time, talent, and treasure that you give. So it's really fun to support the next generation, especially when the charities are completely different than what the parents want, and to see how they deal with that. It's really interesting.
That is really interesting. Does your work at all tie into like socially responsible investing in any way? Because I know this is an area where there's been some kind of headlines lately around like, should the two areas be completely separate, right? Should there be a separation between kind of investments and call it doing good or giving back? And I'm wondering about that. Like as advisors start to incorporate that type of strategy more into their practice, do you see more of an uptick in advisors utilizing donor advised funds as well?
I do. And it's funny because now a lot of, especially the younger generation, wants to put money in the donor advised fund, but then they also want to invest it according to their values.
Right. That's what I was getting at. Exactly. So the two sort of speak hand in hand.
Yeah. And it's like having your money work twice for you.
Yeah, I like that. So do you have flexibility to, I know you position it as a savings account, but is there flexibility to invest it in assets as well? Or is it mostly kind of cash type positions that it's invested in?
It's actually not cash. It is mostly invested. We work with the financial advisors. And I said charitable savings account just to give people, I should have said charitable investment account. It's mostly managed by the financial advisors. And we've had financial advisors come in and do private placements if it really makes sense for the client long term. We also are seeing now an uptick in the generation two, like if you're a family office, not wanting to run the private foundation anymore. Like, I don't want to run your private foundations that the parents set up, and converting that into a donor advised fund. And that's interesting because that's, usually private placement or LLCs and all sorts of types of different investments.
It's always interesting how the next gen kind of does things their own way and how it's often an impetus for changes like this. Yeah, we hear that a lot from financial advisors as well.
It's just really funny because when they realize, like with the private foundation, you have to have board meetings and you have to have a 5% distribution rate and you have to do all this stuff. They're like, yeah, not for me.
Yeah, like it's not just a website and you get to go to the gala once a year. Yeah, there's actually
Right.
some work involved. And
Yeah.
forgive me if some of these questions are basics or that even for some of our listeners, the idea that a donor advised fund can be invested in assets. I'm sure a lot of this is review, but a lot of it is my own curiosity. I think we have a perception in our industry. We take things for granted that everybody knows all this and this jargon. So I appreciate you just spelling it out. This is the most clear and succinct explanation I've heard of donor advised funds. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you mentioned one kind of misconception, which was that these are only for high net worth or ultra high net worth clients. What else do you think advisors get wrong in this space?
That they need to be an expert in it. What we find a lot when we start supporting financial advisors is that they start to get nervous about what questions do they even ask their clients about the charitable giving. Are they going to get judged on whether they're philanthropic or not? Because everybody has this stigma around they're not enough. Let's say you only gave $250 to charity last year. That's a stigma that you didn't do enough to make our world a better place. And so it's a really hard conversation if you come into it with judgment. And so just knowing that they don't need to be an expert, that they can bring in, they are reviewing their clients' tax returns or just talking to them in general. We can have that conversations with them. They don't even need to if they don't want to. Or you ask very simple questions like, where did you give last year? What gift did you make that made you feel the best inside? What gets you excited about if you could possibly see this change in the world? You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to have this also like very emotional conversation. You can bring us in, any other donor advised fund or your community foundation, but really you don't need to be the expert. That's the other misconception that I'm really dealing with.
I actually think that's a really smart one to call out. And the way I view that is like, do one, like dip a toe holding hand. Like it sounds like your team is really willing and able to be a hand holder through this. Yeah. And my bet is I have a suspicion here that if advisors were to dip a toe and kind of do this once, they might indeed be able to feel more comfortable doing it as a more meaningful part of their strategy going forward. Is that fair? You see repeat business here?
Absolutely. Oh, most of my financial advisors, once you had the first account's the hardest. I think my biggest financial advisor, I have 110 accounts with. It's a repeat business. And it's also, you're going to gain more of their assets under management, right? So that's just another thing to think about in that is that you probably we see when you add donor advised fund to your practice, about 3% more in your assets under management because you're going after your current clients and their charitable giving and what they already want to do.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's actually a very interesting way to frame the conversation is through like, this actually enables you to potentially grow because that's what every advisor cares about. I like that stat. And to that end, you mentioned corporations as a potential kind of growth avenue for the area. What else do you view as like the next frontier in donor advised funds? Is there anything coming down the pike that really excites you?
So the corporation things is really exciting for me. So just because I love to see companies really start matching their values with employee giving programs, where they can have it part of their check and giving back to the donor advised fund and really making an impact. But I think what's also powerful about the donor advised fund is that we're seeing a lot of more visuals around it. When I say that is that the next generation wants more of the videos and the living legacy, videos of like the founder of the donor advised fund stating what they want for their next 2 generations. So that's really exciting to me because I love the visual side of things, but it's getting used more in all of your charitable vehicles. So your like CRATs and your CRUTs, all that stuff, you can put a donor advised fund in there. So let's say your client, wants to do, a CRAT but doesn't know what charity it wants to align with. We're seeing the donor advised fund being used for that as well.
I think the corporation idea is interesting to me on a conceptual level, but do you see advisors helping those corporations or is that more corporations coming directly to you?
Well, it's both because we've seen people win 401k plans because if you're already managing their 401k plan, you could be managing the corporation's charitable wealth as well. So we see it like as, hey, listen, not only can we do your 401k and help your employees, we can also help you with your, if you want to do any kind of give back program with your financial advisor or with your clients or employees.
Oh, that makes sense to me. So do you spend your day mostly quote unquote prospecting? Like, I guess educating is probably the better word for it. Or is your day filled? Yeah. Okay.
We do a ton of education for financial advisors specifically, just really how to have that conversation. And we do a lot of client nights, like stuff like that, just to really make sure that our clients, especially for our financial advisors, we want to make sure that we're adding value to their service, right? Like we want to make sure that their clients and what they feel like they're really adding like a holistic touch point that people really care about.
You actually bring up a good question, which is where do you see the conversation around donor advised funds typically originating? Like, is this something that clients are bringing to their advisor or vice versa?
That's really interesting because I'm really glad that I pulled all these statistics for you. No, I'm kidding. But 90% of top advisors incorporate their values into their first initial conversation.
Meaning advisors are using it as basically a prospecting tool.
Absolutely, because it sets them apart, right? Not everybody is having that conversation. And if you're looking for a new financial advisor, most of the times you're interviewing more than one person and you want to work with the person that's going to bring you the most value. And adding the philanthropy conversation can prove that.
I'm thinking too, like, what about if we have a lot of listeners of our show who run independent businesses, either under broker dealer umbrellas or who run RIAs? And Do you provide, like, what if somebody as a head of a firm or a manager of a firm wanted to get United Charitable in just to educate their advisors more on the space? Is that the type of work you do as well?
Absolutely.
And do advisors and firms pay for your services? Like, what's the process like?
So they don't pay for our services because we're hoping to create that strategic partnership where we get to start to support you. But we really want to make sure we are very picky with who we serve as financial advisors. We want to make sure that you do have the right approach to financial advising. And I know that sounds a little bit rough, but there is nothing worse than when a financial advisor sets up a plan and then the client doesn't understand it. And then the next generation takes over and we're the beneficiary of in the will or whatever. No one knows what's going on. And so we really want to make sure that we work with the financial advisors that have that same mentality that we have, which is that we're serving the clients, that we're making sure that the family and everybody's educated in what they're doing. And it's really not transactional.
Oh, that is interesting. Okay. I just thought of a question that pops into my mind. You brought up, at least I think your comment you made was something about like how the current regulatory environment makes it such that you don't have to distribute
Correct.
currently. But my question is, do you have regulatory concerns moving forward of like, hey, this space might be in for some sort of seismic shift?
It's funny. I don't have any. They put up proposed laws maybe about 2 years ago and it didn't have any post distribution rates. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't see anything in the future, but that's not to say there's nothing that's coming.
Yeah, it seems to me like we're going the other way. Like there's going to be more and more people utilizing these. Has your business picked up? Have you seen a meaningful uptick in adoption?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how the philanthropy trends go throughout the year. So like, for example, when COVID happened, I for sure thought that we were like, our business was going to tank, right? Like I was like, oh, great. No one's going to
Join
make a
the club.
donation. Yeah, right. Like no one's making a donation during COVID. More people were like thinking about I hate to say this, but thinking about their death and their estate and had more time to sit down and like look at things. So we actually got more donations in COVID. We had one of our best years, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Then I start to get nervous around like the election time friends. Like, what is the market going to do? And there was like a little dip in the beginning of the year that I was like, oh, guys, like, here we go. Just because a donor advised fund is a great way if you have capital gains, right? To donate into the funds and not realize them. And I was a little bit nervous, but we're still seeing financial advisors advising and recommending donor advised funds. So we've been pretty steady this year.
That's awesome. And honestly, such is the life of a CEO. We've had a lot of CEOs and business leaders on this show. And it is the one comment I would say is alternating like moments of paranoia and panic and, oh my God, the business is going to zero, but then also optimism and belief in the space. And that's exactly what you're sharing as well, I think.
Yeah. And in 2022, we launched Athletes Charitable, specifically gearing donor advised funds into the athlete space because it's not very prevalent there at all. And so we've had really a great time with that as well, introducing donor advised funds into spaces that it's really talked about in the high net worth space, but not specifically for professional athletes or are in the high net worth space, or it's people really think that the donor advised funds may not be for them, and it is.
And that's why I feel like a lot of the battle continues to be, because honestly, I'm involved in the wealth management industry. I would say very involved. And we hear about donor advised funds a lot. And even this was illuminating for me. So I would imagine like there just has to be so many people who just don't know or who think it is only an ultra high net worth vehicle. Like I think the education battle is the one that's worth investing in for you. And I know you know this because I really do believe that it's a no-brainer in some cases. There's no downside.
Yeah. And it's just so funny because especially if you're having some type of life event or inheritance or even like a signing bonus, why would you want to just pay those taxes? Like, I just don't, like, I can't comprehend.
It's a very good point. And you get to do good and do well. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So you mentioned charities, and I'm just curious your take on this. Any really interesting charities that come to mind that you would want to give a plug for?
Well, that's so funny. It's because not necessarily a charity, but what I love to find out, like we have 650 clients that all have different charitable intentions. And so we end up vetting so many. I mean, I think we gave to over 2,000 different charitable organizations last year. And one is so there's this charity in Hawaii that is preserving the Hawaiian culture, right? And so they're really teaching people how to like sail around the Hawaiian Islands without using like electronic tools. And it's like those kind of charities that you would have never thought existed, that you can really start to talk to your clients about why preserving that way of culture and all of that. And it's just amazing.
What order does it typically work in? Like, does somebody say, I know I want to give, but I'm not sure where? Is that the typical process with a donor advised fund?
Yeah. And sometimes they really know where they want to give, like they want to give to their alma mater or their church. And then sometimes they're like, these wildfires that were happening in California, I really want to support single moms that were affected. And then the great part about United Charitable is that we can go out and we'll vet and we'll provide organizations that really are providing services to single moms, whether it's housing or clothing or finding a new apartment, whatever it may be. We're able to really listen to the client and figure out what really makes them happy and makes them tick, because that's going to make them want to donate more money into the donor advised fund, right? And then distribute more.
And are you selective with because, and I hate to even ask this question, but I think it's an important one. Like, there's obviously some concerns with charities not either donating the appropriate portion of what they say, or they're not doing the mission they state. Like, are you selective with the charities you allow on your platform?
Yeah. So we vet every single charity that we distribute to. The number one thing we look at is not only that they do have an independent board, that's incredibly important to us. We also make sure that they have high public support. That means that there's not one donor controlling the entire charity. We also want to make sure that we can look into, when we're looking at their 990, to make sure that they have program service revenues, that they're really giving back, or they're really trying to fix what they want to. And the great thing about us is that at United Charitable, anything that is given over $5,000, we ask the charity to report back to us on how they spent that money, and then we forward that to the client.
Got it. And do you have competitors in that space, or in the donor advised fund space? Like, are there other facilitators of this that you view as your direct competition?
Absolutely.
And I won't make you name them, but is that a good thing? Like, is this the kind of thing where there's
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you might say that. We feel the same way, by the way.
Absolutely. And we're not for everybody. And so we're really high touch and high customer service. And some people like just to make their $5,000 gift. Not that we wouldn't support that as well, but I'm just saying, yeah, there's absolutely competitors in this space and people that do it great.
I think that's well said. All right, one or two more questions for you. This is, again, it's been a lot of fun, and I learned a ton from this episode, because this is a little bit of a different, we've had like tech providers and obviously plenty of firm leaders and plenty of wealth managers on the show, but this is certainly unique. So I appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. All right, two more questions to take us home. Number one, 5 years from now, if we're having this conversation, what do you see yourself saying about the donor advised fund space? Is it, oh my God, the inflows have been massive? Is it, oh my God, the regulatory environment's changed? Like, where do you think we're going?
I think we're going to go to a place where we're going to see a lot more distributions, and we're going to see a lot more clients really caring about where they're giving to and the impact. So I just see it as more of like, in 5 years, we are going to be doing so much more in how can we really study the change that we're creating? Was the repeat gifts to this certain organization? How did I create that change? And just really seeing the data around that. I think with technology, that's the great thing about technology. We're able to track things a lot more. So we can really start to determine the impact having a donor advised fund can have.
I love it. Let me ask you this to close out. If I gave you an audience, with a hypothetical audience with 100 of the top advisors in the country, right? You've got 20 Morgan Stanley advisors and 20 LPL advisors and 20 Raymond James and RBC, whatever, 100 top quality advisors. What would be the message? You have a free 1 minute. What would you want to deliver to them?
That their work, when they do charitable work, you are changing lives. You're giving people the ability to really figure what out their value is. You're matching their value with your money, and you are doing the work to make the world a better place. It's not just about having that conversation. It's the impact of what that conversation means and what charities you're supporting. And you're giving people the real ability to be a philanthropist.
I love that. And what we'll do is on our podcast page, we'll make sure we put the link to your website as well, because as I said, I view education as a major barrier to even more adoption here, just because, and that's true of any, I think, innovative product or any product that solves a need, is there's a learning curve with it. And in our industry, we talk about this a lot. We have the double learning curve where we have to educate advisors, but we also have to educate clients. And I think you would agree. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you again for your time. This was an absolute blast, and really appreciate your expertise and your time.
As a financial advisor, You hold yourself to the highest standards of integrity, honesty, and credibility. You are successful because you take your professional responsibility seriously and are dedicated to your clients. But are you living your best business life? Are your goals aligned with your firm's, or could a better option exist? Should I Stay or Should I Go is a book written with you in mind. It's a self-guided journey that walks you through the key steps that we take with our advisor clients. This strategic thought process and roadmap to professional self-discovery is designed to help you ask the right questions and think critically and objectively, whether you're considering change or not. Learn how to get your copy at diamond-consultants.com/thebook.